And QC Sports Inferno is back on the air. I'm Mike Ackerman with Corey Schrader, who just joined us live for another couple hours of sports talk. Corey, we have got a lot to talk about tonight.
Yeah, there is. I mean, you've got, of course, the Bears. We've got a lot of rumors going on concerning the Cubs,
which I called. I wrote an article about it and said these are the moves they would need to make, and almost to a man, they were reported today.
Yeah, they were, and they were even talking about Montero.
Yep.
Which makes me a little bit nervous, but we'll see what the Cubs do. Plus, you got the rumors are going to be hyped up pretty good because winter meetings start next week, right? So
yeah. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot happen next week. I mean, that's usually the first. The GM meetings are when they start to lay the groundwork for a few things, and the winter meetings are when things start to happen.
Yeah. So I mean, the Cubs. There's a lot going on. It's no secret that they want pitching.
Absolutely. But I think, but I don't think they think, and I agree with them. I don't think they need David Price or Greinke, or Zimmerman, even though he would be a little bit cheaper. I mean, obviously, you would take them if the payroll was one that you could do that with. But I don't think they feel they need that. If they could do exactly what I talked about. Trim Castro, trim Montero, trim Hamill. That's $40 million. Get Samardzija, get Tyson Ross, who are going to cost you about $25 million, and then go sign Hayward. That gets you up to about $45 million, and then the payroll is expected to increase $10 to $15 million this year.
I will disagree with you on the pitcher.
You think they need another ace?
I'd rather have Shelby Miller than Tyson Ross.
Oh, I would too. No, I would too. But what's the price tag on Shelby Miller? I mean, what's his salary?
Oh, he's got he's still on his base arbitration salary. He's got 3 controllable years left.
Yeah,
25 years old. Same deal with Tyson Ross.
I agree. I agree 100%. I would much rather have Shelby Miller if you could get him. Now, I also think Shelby Miller is going to cost more. Shelby Miller is definitely Baez.
Yeah, as long as it's not Soler.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, but I think you're looking at Baez.
Then that's what they want. They want a middle infielder for Shelby, a young middle infielder.
Now the question is, because I know the Braves need a catcher, but I doubt they want to take on Montero's salary.
No, because they're doing a rebuild kind of like the Cubs, but they need more hitters. I mean, they've got a lot of young, good pitching with Miller and, what is it? I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Kieran or something like that.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of good young pitchers. I think it's more hitting that they're going to be looking at, and it might be a Baez, or it might be a combination of it could be a combination of maybe McKinney and the one infielder, I always forget his name.
Torres? Or
Torres.
No, not
Gleyber.
Torres. Yeah, Gleyber Torres, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely going to take more than it would take to get Ross. I mean, Shelby Miller was really good last year, even though his record says he wasn't. He was really good last year.
Yeah, who cares about his record? He had better numbers than
Ross.
Ross.
He was playing on a bad team. Wasn't he an all-star?
Yeah, and that's why they want middle infielders.
Right. So no,
they've got the pitching.
I would trade Baez for Shelby Miller.
Yeah, because then if you get a Jeff Samardzija, I mean, you get Shelby Miller, Baez.
Shelby
one article I read that they would even be fine if they were to trade for another pitcher, and they were even saying the Cubs might have enough money for a big name pitcher and Hayward.
Well, because
So
Shelby Miller
you
only
got-
made $500,000 last year.
right.
Now he's probably going to go up to, I would say, 5, 6, 7 somewhere this year because he's probably
Mhm.
arbitration eligible after having a good year, even though the winning record isn't there. He still had a good year, so he's going to get a good jump.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's basically what. I mean, he's a. It's controllable year, so he does. His contract isn't huge. So look,
And that's
what
the
the
only
Cubs
thing.
need to go for.
Yeah, and that's the only thing though, Corey, that I would trade for one of the young guys for is a young all-star pitcher like that. That's the only thing I trade him for.
Well, yeah, I don't. That's why I don't want to trade. Like, I wouldn't want to get a Baez for Tyson Ross.
Right.
And then, some people were saying, some rumor is Starlin Castro for Brett Gardner for the Yankees.
That would be a stupid trade. I don't like Brett Gardner.
Me neither.
I would not be happy with that trade.
But welcome to winter meetings, right? I mean,
Right.
we're a week before winter meetings, and this is the type of stuff that happens. Rumors have Price wanting to go back to Toronto, and he's pricing himself out of the Cubs signing him, and that's fine. That's fine. I'm fine with it.
I am too.
And seriously, if you look at it, the Cubs were, a series away from the World Series without David Price.
Right.
Now, what if you get someone that is your third starter that is like, well, they're even talking about, I hear more John Lackey rumors than I hear Jeff Smarja, because Smarja might command more on the market, and Lackey's getting older. He might be a Cub.
I don't.
And we hate him.
I don't like Lackey.
No, me neither. But he's a good pitcher. He did good in the playoffs, right?
Except for the last.
He had that one bad game.
I guess my question though is, how old is Lackey? 30.
35.
Yeah, that's too close to the. That it feels like you're getting into the Greg Maddux mode where you're near the end and you only got one way to go but down.
Yeah, that's why they're talking like a 2-year contract with him. It would push him over the top, because the article I read, it was between the Cubs and the Giants. He wants to stay in the National League, and he's made his preference known, Cubs or Giants. So I think it comes down to years.
Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere.
If Giants offer him a 3-year, then he goes to the Giants. If both are 2 years around the same money, I bet you he could become a Cub.
So here's my question though: Would you sign Samardzija and Lackey and trade for Shelby Miller, and then in the trade include Kyle Hendricks?
So basically, to me, that comes down to ultimately you're trading Hendricks for Smarja.
No, you're trading Hendricks for Miller.
I think. Well, I don't think they're going to take that
No.
because they want middle infielders.
No. What I'm saying though is if you could trade Shelby Miller for Javier Baez, because I think it's going to take more than just Baez to get Miller. You got an all-star pitcher who's 25 years old. It's going to take a lot to get him. So if you could trade Miller for Baez and Hendricks, and then would you sign both Samardzija and Lackey?
I would do it.
Because then you're looking at but then you still got. I think you still probably have to make a trade. Well, you got to trade Hamill too, which Hamill's $9 million, I think, next year. And then if they're still talking about trading Montero, that's like $14 million next year.
Right.
So that would be that's $23 million you'd be trading. But you're keeping Castro, but he's not. I mean, it's not like he's outpricing the market. Which and just a quick heads up here, Indiana's down by 2 to Wake Forest with 3.2 seconds to go. But so then you'd have to get rid of those two. That's $23 million that you'd be getting rid of in those two, and you'd be adding Lackey, who's probably going to be. I know Samardzija is going to be somewhere around 15. And then you're going to add Lackey, who's probably going to be 12.
Yeah.
I mean,
that gives the Cubs depth.
Right.
And with Lackey, you get playoff experience, and you get Samardzija under Bosio again, because he hasn't been the same since he left the Cubs. And that should tell you right there how much Bosio is worth as a coach.
Right.
You get him back. You get a 25-year-old all-star pitcher, okay, to go along with an Arrieta, a Lester. Why not? That's a heck of a rotation.
Right.
I don't care who you are. That's a good rotation.
And let's not forget
solid rotation.
And let's not forget too that John Lackey only made $500,000 last year. Wow. And let's not forget too that the Cubs don't need 5 aces. They've already got 2 aces. They need guys who are going to pitch well or pitch in the regular season. I mean, they won 97 games last year with a Carousel as your 5, Hamill as your 3, and Hendricks as your 4. So you could I would still be okay with Hendricks as my 5 because if you got to the playoffs, let's be honest, what you're looking for here is somebody you want 1 or 2 guys who can Wake Forest beat Indiana. That's crazy. What you're looking for here is 1 or 2 guys that can provide you depth in the playoffs as well. You don't want to have to go to into the bullpen in the 3rd inning after your first 2 games of the playoffs. I mean, you want guys who can go deep. And Samardzija, and whether it be Miller or whether it be Lackey, would be able to provide that.
Well, that's what the playoffs exposed was depth.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it hurt the Cubs.
Well, and we saw it this year.
It showed when Hamill got hurt that there was not much to really cover that. I mean, really, there wasn't anything there. And that's why Madden, I think, deserved that Manager of the Year, because
Absolutely.
Look what he did with Wood. I mean, Wood and Cahill were your 3rd starters, pretty much.
Right.
3rd and 4th starters of the playoffs. So,
Absolutely.
But if you get a Lackey and a Samardzija, you have that capability now to have that quality start, that quality depth, and I mean, look, the Cubs got the Lackey because he came in at short rest.
Right. Right.
Okay, he pitched a lot, came in on short rest. That first game, he dominated the Cubs.
Yeah.
Now, if you have Lester and Arrieta, who will, if the Cubs make it to the playoffs next year, will not have the nerve that he had, but you got to go through Lester, Arrieta, and Lackey.
And either Shelby Miller or Jeff Samardzija.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I don't know that I'd get a 3rd one, just because I think you're still looking for a center fielder, and that's why if you could get Samardzija, I'm sorry, not Samardzija. If you can get Miller as one of them, Miller's the key, because if you can get Shelby Miller, then you're getting a all-star pitcher for $5 million probably. And he's still under control for several more years. You're getting that all-star pitcher for $5 million. Well, now you start to look at that's cost-effective, especially if you can somehow swing a Jason Hamill deal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the writing will be on the wall. I don't think the Cubs will get too much off of a Hamill deal, but
well, let me ask you this. Let's say you trade. Here's what I would do. I know I'm going to be the GM again. Trade Hamill to Atlanta because Hamill's just got 1 year left, right? I think there's a club option for a third year. Trade Hamill to Atlanta. Pay for whatever the difference in the salary is between the two. Pay it. So basically, you're still going to end up paying $9 million for Shelby Miller. So say if Hamill makes $9 million this year and Miller's going to make $5 million, end up paying him the $9 million and then call it a deal. But then that way, if Hamill ends up having a good year, the way you got to sell it to the Braves is, hey, do the same thing we did. If you're rebuilding, do the same thing we did. He's got he's at the deadline or when we get June or July, trade him.
Yeah.
Trade him, and there's your rebuild. Taking another step forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, because there's a lot to figure out, and the good thing is the Cubs just need some key pieces, and you just got to move some things around, and that I trust Theo, and I trust Jed to do it correctly, as long as it's not so Larry.
No, I agree. I would not. I wouldn't trade. You've worked for years to get all these good young hitters in there. I wouldn't walk away from that right now.
No, because your most questionable hitter right now is Baez.
Right. Because Castro
trade him now.
Castro would be a good second baseman. He would hit you 270, 275, 13, 14 home runs, play a good second base, and then you're going to have Russell, who's going to do probably the same thing as shortstop. But then you got Bryant, Rizzo, Schwarber, Soler, who are just going to go bombs away, which, again, brings me back to if you can somehow get Miller and you can save that money there. But, boy, you'd probably have to get rid of Montero somehow. Or you'd have to get rid of Castro and put Baez in at second base.
Right.
Because that's $9 million saved right there for the most part, or $8 million. And use that money for Hayward. That would be a big deal to me.
But then again, who knows what the money situation is with the Cubs? We could sit here and debate all day long, what we read and what we see.
Well,
nothing's officially released as far as money. Maybe the Cubs can swing something where they don't have to worry about getting rid of Montero and keeping Montero there. You know what I mean?
Well, but all we can go off is what Theo said. Without officially releasing anything, all we can go off is what Theo said. And what Theo said was to make one big free agent signing, we're going to have to get a little creative. To make two big signings, we have to get really, really creative.
Right.
So, if you signed a Hayward, that's obviously a big signing. If you signed a Samardzija to go on top of it, that's two big signings.
I don't consider Samardzija a big signing.
It's big-ish. I mean, he's going to command $15 million a year.
Yeah, but nowadays, I think that's almost mid-level, and the years will be smaller.
Yeah, I think you're going to look – because apparently Samardzija had even talked about – doing a 1-year deal to get his value back up there. I don't think that will happen.
I think the Cubs would want a little bit more stability with that, and I think that they would tell him, "Look, 2 years at minimum."
Right. No, I agree. Unless if you're the Cubs, you want to make sure. See, the Cubs could also go into it though, thinking, okay, $1 million, that's fine, or 1 year, $10 million, $12 million, whatever it may be, that's fine, because then they don't have to give anything up for them. I don't know what the free agent class next year looks like, and then if you're the Cubs, you're not. you're not. I don't know. I don't think the Cubs would have a problem with it, to be honest. Because let's not forget too, he's also coming off a year where he had a 5 ERA. We can say Bosio can fix him, but we also don't know that either for 100% fact.
I think they would. I think they would go if Smarja was to do a 1-year deal. I think they would go more the Lackey route.
I don't. I would rather have Samardzija for 1 year than Lackey for 2
Well,
or 3.
that's why you're usually wrong.
Yeah, not according to the what David Kaplan was saying on ESPN Radio out of Chicago today. It looks like I was dead on.
That was David Kaplan. Consider the source.
Looks like I was almost dead on, unless I'm his source.
Yeah.
maybe I'm his source.
Yeah. Well, if you were the source, then I hope the Hawkeyes don't use you as a source, because right now they would be going to the Holiday Bowl if you were a source for anybody.
No, that doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm saying this is what they should do. I'm not saying what they already are. I'm saying what the Cubs should do.
Well, I agree with you and David Kaplan. No way on Smarja on a 1-year deal.
See, and I think almost every scout in baseball would take that, or every GM in baseball would take that.
I don't think so.
I think so. Why wouldn't you? You're at no risk if he tears his ulnar collateral ligament pops. I mean, you get no risk. The only way you don't do it is if you are the Cubs from a couple years ago or something like that, when you're looking to make a long-term deal because you know you're not a competitor. And why pay $15 million for one season? That's the only way. I think that's the only type of team that wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but his 1-year salary is going to be more. I think would cost more for 1 year if you average the years out. If you sign up to 3 years.
But if you're the Cubs, why do you care?
Well, if you're trying to be cost effective, that's kind of big.
No, I understand that, but if it fits inside your budget, why do you care? I mean, it's going to be $15 million. I mean, that's what he's going to be right around $15 million. But if you sign him for $15 million, what do you care if it's for 1 year or for 5 years? Especially for a guy that had a 5 ERA.
Well, is that going to be enough time to hopefully see what your players are worth and what's on the free agent market next year?
If he's having a great year in June, you re-sign him. Or July, you say you throw a long year or a long contract out there for him.
Yeah, but the problem is the Cubs tried that long year contract, and that's what he's facing now, and he turned that long year contract down.
Yeah, well, that was a big mistake.
So are you going to put I don't know. I disagree with the 1 year.
I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying that's what I read at one point. For him to go from making $15 million to $20 million a year, he might have to sign a shorter-term contract.
Yeah, he might find I don't know if he wants to go back to the American League, but.
No, I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt that very much that he wants to go back there. I wouldn't think so.
Or he goes to the Cardinals.
He could go to the Cardinals. He could absolutely.
They're going to need some pitching, and they don't go after Greinke's or Price or anything like that. So they will be the ones after a Smarja, maybe a Zimmerman.
Well, they could go after a Price. I mean, because let's not forget, the Cardinals probably got as much, if not more, money than the Cubs to spend this year. With them having signed that TV contract, they've got a lot of money to spend. Now they're a little more stingy with their money. Let's see if they do it. But I also think the Cardinals have a lot further to go than the Cubs do this offseason. I mean, they've got to, if they don't re-sign Jason Hayward and John Lackey, and then you don't have Lance Lynn, you had a bunch of your other pitchers really faltering down the stretch. You got Waka coming off of Achilles surgery, or not Waka, Wainwright coming off of Achilles problem. Then the Cardinals have a long way to go this offseason to get back to where they were.
They do. I read that Lackey doesn't prefer going back to the Cardinals, and I think Hayworth's priced himself out of the Cardinals look.
Yeah, I mean, he may have. It'll be interesting where they end up going. They could end up. I think they're going to get at least one or two free agents. I mean, maybe it's a Jordan Zimmerman. It sounds like Greinke wants to go to either the Dodgers or Frisco. The hot.
I honestly think he'd go to San Francisco.
You know, a name that I heard right after the season ended that he would possibly want to maybe play for the Cubs was Tim Lincecum.
Yeah, I mean, that would be good for the bullpen.
Yeah, he doesn't want to come back to the bullpen.
Yeah. Well, I don't want him to be my starting pitcher either. I mean, talk about a guy who, Tim Lincecum 5 years ago? Sure. Tim Lincecum 2015? No.
Well, and he's a guy who fell in a hurry too.
He did. It was almost.
He was from a low to mid 2 guy, and then went to 3.5 or 3.15, 3.17 to 4.18, then back to 3.74. In the last 2 years, he's been 4.31 and 4.29.
Well, plus he's hurt all the time.
Right. Well, last year he only threw 76 innings. He hasn't hit 200 innings since 2011. And I think that's part of the problem is he was at such a young age. At 24 years old, he threw 227. At 25 years old, he threw 225. Then the next year 212. Then the next year 217. And it's like Bob Sanders, playing in the NFL. He's such a little guy. You can only take that body can only take it for so long. And I think that was the same way with Lincecum.
Well, yeah. I mean, bullpen. That's about it. And look, the Cubs,
maybe be a swing guy.
They're wanting innings eaters, and all the players that we talk about. Shelby Miller got hurt. Was hurt that 1 year, but all the players we've talked about, these guys are 200, plus inning people, or at least 190.
Right.
So these are all horses,
right.
and that's what the Cubs need. You don't want a guy. I don't want to rely on Lincecum where there's questions, and then you come playoff time, the guy's rehabbing an MCL tear.
Right. No, I agree. I don't want the guy either. I'm just saying that's a name that I had seen out there. I'd
rather have Cahill.
Well, but I was gonna say actually the same exact thing. Cahill's a guy I actually want to keep on the roster because if you do get to a point where you trade away one guy and you go in with a straight up 5, you know who your starting rotation is going to be. You got a Pierce Johnson in the minor leagues. You've got one or two others that were in Double-A but they're just not studs. So I don't know how they would do in the big league. None of them are Mets caliber pitchers as young guys. So I think of Cahill because the rumor is that Cahill wants to go back to being a starter. Well, I would love him for the Cubs to play that swing role again for an entire season. And then when one of them guys goes down, something like that, you give him a start.
Yeah, I think they're looking at, they're still going to have Travis Wood. So they'll still have that swing guy. And don't forget the Cubs just acquired that Spencer Patton, too, from the Rangers.
Right.
So, he can fill a spot like that. So, as much as I agree with you, I'd like Cahill back. Yeah, I mean, he wants to be a starter. So I think, by the time someone tries and says, okay, we'll make you a starter, for the Marlins, the Cubs are going to fill out their roster already.
Yeah, and I think that's too bad for a guy like Cahill because he could have probably used that extra year underneath, or the extra year underneath Basio to get that, make sure that sinker is solid. Because that's what really did it for him. His biggest problem is I don't see him as a starter only because that's by far his best pitch, and you can't. I don't think you can do that for 7-8 innings.
No, he's the new Dennis Eckersley, except for the closer part.
Right. Right. No, but I wish he may have been a guy who could have built up some income had he stayed with the Cubs and filled in that swing role. Now, you brought up Travis Wood. That's another guy, though, that, if you want to clear some salary, you can clear Travis Wood.
Yeah, you could, but then you lose your swing guy.
Right.
He's under contract. Then you'd have to go look for one.
But that's
and you know what you're getting out of Travis Wood. And Travis Wood, besides Kyle Schwarber, if you looked at the pitching aspect of things, he was. You could almost say MVP-ish type out of the pitchers.
You mean in the postseason?
In the postseason.
Oh, I agree. He's
got that right attitude. He's pissed off. You've got a couple years of control on him. Why not? And I'm sure he wants to go back to the starter's role, but at least you've got a guy that's accepted it right now. Cahill really hasn't accepted it. And he's a free agent, and you got to see how the market plays out with him. As much as I agree with you on the Cahill part, I think you got to keep Travis Wood. Travis Wood is your big swing guy. And if one of those pitchers get injured, you got Travis Wood, which we can't forget, a couple of years ago, was a pretty darn good pitcher.
No, I agree. But here's the thing, though, is do you have the luxury of paying a swing guy $8-9 million a year, $6, $7, $8, $9 million a year, whatever he's making? That's a lot of money to pay a swing guy. That's a lot.
Well, not in this day and age. Not for a swing guy. That's part of your depth, too. I don't see where the Cubs in their minor leagues have it. And I don't think it would be enough to clear payroll.
I agree. I think he's the best guy for the job, but I'm also saying, would you rather have him as a swing guy, or would you rather add a fifth starter or a center fielder that's really good?
Well, if it came down to dropping Travis Wood, yeah, of course.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Is I'm not talking about getting rid of Travis Wood to pick up Joe Schmo. I'm talking about if there's money that if you can trade him, then you're looking at you're looking at several $1 million opening up.
No, your swing guy would probably would end up being like a Carl Edwards.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Was Carl Edwards? He just popped in my mind too. Yeah, he would be your swing guy, which that would probably be a good deal. He also could be somebody that maybe he traded too.
Yeah.
I mean it'll
be an interesting winter, that's for sure, and it'll be interesting what the Cubs have to spend and what they're going to spend, and the Cubs can spend. Now you got these stupid rooftop people back in the conversation again.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, they want to sue. They're trying to reopen the lawsuit again.
Yeah, I did not see that. Well, they aren't going to win.
Fighters.
Yeah, they aren't going to win. That ship has sailed.
No, it's gone. The Cubs want to deal with it.
Hey, are you seeing? I'm seeing it on TV now. Well, it's a commercial now, but to change subjects a little bit, Marquette is playing college basketball. Marquette is playing LSU, who's a top 25 team, with the number one freshman in the country, who they expect to be the number one pick in the NBA draft next year. And it's just the first half, but Marquette is beating them.
I tell you what, I was nervous about Iowa, and they won their first game, and I thought, okay, that's how they're supposed to win. And I know Marquette, they're kind of rebuilding, but the kids they have are super talented.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hawks just gave them their worst defeat at the Bradley Center ever.
I know it. They beat them bad. I mean, they beat them like they stole something.
And it tells me this Hawkeye team might be pretty darn good.
Oh, I think so. You know what? I after watching the first preseason game, you and I talked about it a little bit, and then watching then we didn't see that, or I didn't see it anyway, the game against South Dakota, Augustana, South Dakota, where they lost. Then watching the first regular season game where they just looked okay. Well, in the second regular season game, they looked really good. And then against Marquette, they looked really good. And I think what happened is McCaffrey started to figure out his rotation, and it's very obvious that his top three off the bench are Ellington, Dale Jones, and Ahmad Wagner. Oh, and I'm sorry, and Dom Ewell, top four off the bench.
And Ewell, yeah.
Yeah, and Ewell.
It makes me wonder that Hutton might be a wet red shirt.
Well, I think so. Which is not a bad deal. People want to look at that as a bad deal. Look at Ethan Happ at Wisconsin.
Oh, I think it's a perfectly good deal, honestly.
Yeah, because we talked about it before. You look at Hutton and Isaiah Moss. They had two different. I mean, if you could combine the two, they'd probably be one of the top 5 freshmen in the country, because Isaiah Moss is ridiculously skilled, but I have a coat rack that weighs more than he does. And Brandon Hutton looks like Ahmad Wagner, just a few inches shorter. But he doesn't have the skill.
I think it's fine, and I think Moss accepts it because of the academic part.
Yeah.
I think Hutton would have been the one to fight it a little bit.
And I think he is.
But I think he realizes. I mean, I haven't heard or read any articles, anything that say Hutton's disappointed, because I think he realizes that it'll be just as good for him.
No, and I think it's just a matter right now. He's not saying it, but he's also not talking either. And I think it's more a matter of McCaffrey's going, hey, I can't get you into a game. You might as well use it as a redshirt year because you're going to sit there anyways.
Right.
And I think that's more what it is right now. I really don't think Hutton wants to commit to redshirting. But if I'm him, I'm looking at him going, I don't know where I'm going to get in right now because these other guys are pretty damn good. I mean, I watch Dale Jones, and every time he shoots the ball, it looks like it's going in. Every time.
Well, I knew they weren't going to redshirt Fleming because I saw a quote from Fleming that that he would play right away.
Yeah.
And I think McCaffrey's good on his word because those are the things he told Gasell and Woodbury, that you guys would play right away.
Right.
Well, he's kept to his word. I mean, look at those guys. I mean, they've played since they came in.
Yeah, Fleming's definitely going to be a player. I don't think he's going to contribute a ton. I think he's going to get 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there.
He's going to give you quality minutes. And Ahmad Wagner, of course, McCaffrey said, you're going to play right away because he was contemplating football.
Right. Well, but the other part with Wagner, though, is I think Wagner reminds me of a inch or two or a couple inch shorter Reggie Evans. I mean, he's
going to be a study already. He's like third in the Big Ten in offensive rebound.
Yeah, he's just an absolute beast on the boards. They may not ever run a play for him in 4 years at Iowa, and I hope they don't, because his offensive game is more of a garbage man offensive game right now. Maybe it'll get better, but right now he's a garbage man. And I'm okay with that. That's what Iowa needs this year, is a garbage man. They need somebody who's relentless on the boards.
What the Hawks lose in Olashany, they've gained in bigger guards and forwards, and I think it makes them a bigger team on the floor, and they're faster. These guys are pretty good, and they're shooting the ball pretty good.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And what you lost in Aaron White was good at filling lanes, getting a couple easy baskets a game from filling a lane, getting a steal, going down and dunking. He was able to take alley-oops, things like that. That's where he was really good. And then the last, 30 or last third of the season, he really became pretty good at shooting the basketball. Well, now you've got Dale Jones, who can shoot the hell out of the basketball. I mean, I'm telling you right now, he's the best shooter I've seen, at least from a stroke standpoint. He looks natural shooting the basketball.
Go
ahead.
This helps out Utah in big way.
Absolutely.
Because everybody's keying, stop Utah, you stop Iowa. Well, now you got these guys that are, Don Mule, where the heck did his three-point shot come from?
Right.
All of a sudden you've got these players that are making shots, getting the rebounds. And I thought, when I first looked at Marquette, and I was watching the game, I thought, oh, geez, of course we get Marquette, and they're like having an off year. But then, they hung with Belmont, and Belmont, people talking top 25 team there, and now if they're hanging with LSU,
right?
And Iowa just, smoked them.
Right.
It was like they were playing a South Dakota August. And I think that was great with McCaffrey, and I think that helped the young kids say, they're not all gimmies around here.
Exactly. No, I agree.
I think that helped them.
I was reading an article today, and there was I don't know if you ever saw it, or if you've kind of heard this story before. When the Dream Team back in '92, the first game that they played was an exhibition game, no press, no nothing, against collegiates, and they lost.
Yeah.
But afterward, Chuck Daly was the coach, and afterward, Mike Shefsky was an assistant on the team, and Shefsky says, "Hey, Daly threw the game. He didn't tell anybody." He said, but when you started looking at what was going on the court, because there was nobody there. It was just the teams. It was just the teams inside a gym. But they had the scoreboard on. He said, when you start looking at it, Michael Jordan was sitting. Magic was, barely playing. They weren't pressing. They weren't picking up on D. They weren't doing a ton of things. And Shefsky says he's starting to tell Daly things throughout the game, and Daly's like, we're all right. We're all right. Don't worry about it. We're okay. And then when afterward, Shefsky says, hey, he threw the game. There's no doubt about it. He threw the game. And and they said all the players came back to him then, or came back, when they were doing these interviews a couple years ago for this special, and they said that was his way of saying, hey, you could lose. Because then the next day, they played the same team again, the same collegiate team. Jordan was playing. They were pressing. They were doing everything that they had been practicing, and apparently they beat him by like 60.
Yeah.
So, you wonder if that's a little bit of what McCaffrey had going on there. Now, I think he still probably wanted to win the game, would be my guess. But I wonder if that was his way of saying, of showing them, like you said, hey, you can lose. Anybody can beat you any given night, so you better come out and play your ass off every night.
Well, the freshmen, was celebrated as a decent class. It's a good class.
Yeah.
And I
it's
think
not
they
an
came
amazing
in with
class.
a certain cockiness, which is fine. And I think the other players just kind of, we've got 4 or 5 starters back. We've got, we should just roll them over, and look what happened. But they were playing a good Division II team, obviously.
Right.
And you know what? If that's what we point to at the end of the year and say, geez, the Hawks got to the Sweet 16, we can always look back and say, well, look at why.
Right.
And to crush Marquette the way they crushed Marquette, this is crazy.
Well,
they just crushed them everywhere.
At Marquette. The game on Thursday night could end up being a tough game. Dayton's good. I watched Dayton play Alabama.
Thing, they've got a tough schedule. They've got Dayton. They could play Notre Dame. Then you got Florida State. You got Iowa State.
You got Wichita State possibly in this tournament.
Yeah. So, hey, that's like if Iowa comes out of that, if they come out to that Florida State game undefeated, they're a good team, and again, they got underestimated by all the pundits.
Absolutely.
But you can't say the pundits are special in any way because Iowa football team could possibly be ranked number 2 in the playoffs.
Right.
Come tomorrow.
Right. I don't think – I think they're going to lose once this weekend. I really do. I think they're going to lose at least once this weekend. But I just don't – because I think it's a tough tournament. I think it really is a tough tournament. But if they win this tournament, they're a legit top 15 to 20 team at least. At least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I got to see how they play Dayton.
Right.
If they beat Dayton handily, in my eyes, they win that tournament. I'm more scared of Dayton than I am of Notre Dame.
I am too, because you're going to go into it. You're going to go into it with an attitude of we're Iowa, they're Dayton, which you shouldn't. And Dayton's going to go into it with screw them. Nobody gives us the respect that we deserve. And Dayton can play. I'm telling you, I've seen them play. I don't care. Alabama's not that good right now, but they beat Alabama by 30-something the other night.
Oh, yeah. No, Dayton's a good team. I just think that's the biggest test. And if they beat Dayton, I think they can win this tournament.
I think so too, because I
think
if
they win this tournament, they for sure have to get a big jump in those polls.
Yes. Wichita State's in this tournament. They're number 20, but I just saw scrolling across the screen that their point guard, Fred VanVleet, probably will not play this weekend because he's hurt. Let's see. Dayton is just below Iowa in getting votes. They got 18 votes for the top 25 this week. Iowa got 20. So
I think it's just hard for people to vote on Iowa yet.
Yeah.
Even though they blew out Marquette.
Yeah.
I thought they might have a chance with that blowout of maybe squeaking in the 25, but I wasn't surprised that they didn't. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
People are hating on the football team enough. We don't need them hating on the basketball team, too.
Right. Now, if Iowa comes out of this tournament victorious and they have wins over Dayton and Notre Dame and they're not ranked, then I'm pissed.
Yeah, and that I think they will. If they win this tournament, they'll be ranked. Because there's a lot of good tournaments this weekend, so there's going to be a lot of teams lose. If they win this tournament this weekend, they're going to be ranked. There's I don't know how you couldn't, because you got Dayton who's there, plus you got Notre Dame who's 17, and you got Wichita State who's in the top 50 or top 22. So you would have beaten two teams that are in the top 20. But I think what McCaffrey likes about this team is it's a little bit more like the teams he's had in the past. More a little more perimeter oriented, and teams that want to get up and down the floor and take the first good shot.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's what he's comfortable with, and I think he's getting it more towards his style of play. I think before he had to take the best players that he could get, and now I think he's getting the players that are fitting his system better. Because when you look at next year, too, I mean, I think the kid from Cedar Rapids is definitely one who wants to get up and down the court a little bit. We talked about it before. The kid from Dubuque, the Pemsel kid, is going to be the question mark in this class just because of his knee problems. The kid from St. Louis, Tyler Cook, he's going to be a one who wants to get up and down the court, but he's also a good low post presence. And then the kid from Storm Lake, he looks like he's the real deal to me.
Oh yeah, Kreider
Kreidel, yeah, Kreider, yeah.
Yeah, no, I like him a lot, but I agree. I think McCaffrey is definitely starting to get his team, and you can see it in the recruiting. I mean, he's not going after 6'9", 6'11", 7-footers. I mean, sure, but those are some of the bigger names out there. But I think as far as the speed, I think, I mean, the up and down, especially now with the shot clock, shrinking a little bit, I think that helps play to his style. This Iowa team is better than, I was nervous. I was nervous, and then that Marquette game kind of opened my eyes a little bit.
I agree.
It's just kind of funny because I went to, we had our work Christmas party this weekend, and I'm like, I got to get like a sweater because it was like at Circa 21, I'm like, I better get a sweater or something. So I go to that Burlington Coat Factory, I got a sweater. Come home, I'm not a guy that tries stuff on. Try it on. Man, this thing don't fit. What the hell? So I go return it. I'm like, the Hawkeye game, but I had to return it because I had no time on Friday. So I get there and I return the dang thing. And the sweater I picked out was like $6 more. I'm like, okay, no big deal. So I go up there. There's a long line of people behind me. And I go to my back pocket, my wallet's not there. And it's just me at the store, the wife's at home. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, did I drop it in the dressing room? And then I go back there and I ask, hey, did you guys see a wallet? Like they would say, yeah. They're like, no, we didn't see a wallet. I call my wife. She answers the phone, and she's like, yeah, I got the wallet at home. I'm like, oh, can you drive all the way out to Burlington Coat Factory and get it to me? And so, I pretty much watched the first half at Burlington Coat Factory sitting on one of those shoe benches where you sit to try on your shoes.
Nice.
So I'm sitting there watching the game, and I got people looking at their shoes in the mirror on the side of this bench.
That's funny.
I was pretty impressed with Iowa there.
Well, and then you start looking, the state of Iowa, just like last year, Northern Iowa takes out North Carolina. Who saw that coming?
Well, and this is where it comes to, this is why, and this is both football and basketball, why these big teams don't like to go to the mid-majors.
Right. Well, and I think, and I give Roy Williams credit. He always says that if you're going to come and play 4 years from me, I'll schedule a game back close to where you live. Well, he didn't want to go to Iowa. That's for darn sure. Which
right.
Northern Iowa's been a better program over the last 5 years than Iowa has been. So I would have been scared about going there too. But yeah, it's they played well. They beat UNI. Iowa State just came out today. They're ranked 5th, they beat North Carolina. Iowa State came out today. They're 5th in the country. So, we talked about it last year, and I wrote about it once. The state of Iowa can play basketball.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that too with after UNI won. That's a tough game.
Yeah.
But again, that's the perfect example why in Iowa and why these other colleges get these other teams, that aren't, for their off schedule. And you can rip on Iowa for playing North Texas, but when you rip on Iowa for playing North Texas, you better rip on Alabama for playing Charleston Southern.
Well, and that's what I talked about today this morning when I published this morning the top 8, or what I consider to be the top 8. And what did I write on Alabama? No big changes for Bama over the weekend. They stepped out of conference play to play an undermanned FCS team. If that had been Iowa who played an FCS team this late in the season, the national media would have tripped over themselves getting in line to ridicule.
Right. And I think a lot of voters out there I would be so Iowa will be in the top 4 for sure. I've seen a lot of that might go in top 2.
I was when I was preparing for the show earlier. I was looking up a bunch of stuff, and I saw that Mike Greenberg had on Danny Cannell, and Danny Cannell had Iowa number 2, just like I do, and we'll talk about that in a second. But he said, and Greenberg reads it off, and he goes, Clemson 1, Iowa 2, 4 doesn't matter, 5 doesn't matter. He goes, I had to stop after Iowa. And he goes, I'm a Northwestern guy and blah, 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 but why in the world would you have Iowa number 2? And I'm thinking, you know what? That's a Northwestern guy who's got sour grapes because his team couldn't beat Iowa, and he's pissed off about it. And he thinks his team should be there instead of Iowa.
Oh yeah, and if you're a Northwestern fan, then you know Pat Fitzgerald's hatred towards Iowa.
Right. I thought, you know what, that's terrible. And to Cannell's credit, Cannell said, hey, give me a bad loss from Iowa. And Greenberg says, well, they haven't lost to anybody.
There you go.
And he goes, well, there you go. He said, I'm not getting into they played this many teams and this many teams and blah, 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 blah. He said, they haven't lost. And they've got some good wins. And then what did he say? Or he goes, Cannell goes, who on Alabama's schedule that they've beaten is better than the teams that Iowa's beaten? Who is it? Tell me the great team on Alabama's schedule that's better, that they've beaten, that's way better than any team that Iowa's beaten. And Greenberg goes, well, I wasn't even necessarily talking about Alabama, but Michigan State and had to blah, blah. If it wasn't for them having a tough loss at Nebraska that they shouldn't have lost and this and that and the other thing. And he goes, I wasn't even talking about Alabama. And then about 10 seconds later, he says he would have Alabama in front of Iowa. And it was absolutely ridiculous. And if it was me and I was Cannell, I would have just said, hold on, you just said you weren't even talking about Alabama. Which obviously he was. And then Golick had some stats. And he started spewing these stats out to Greenberg. And they were stats that the schedule is better, the blah, blah, this is better and that's better and whatever for Iowa compared to Michigan State. And Greenberg didn't have anything to say. And basically, they came down to they all just said, you know what, it really doesn't make a difference because they're going to, if they win, they're in. It really doesn't make a difference otherwise.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's undefeated, Iowa. There's 2 undefeated teams left?
Right.
For the Power 5 or whatever?
Yeah. Yep.
Clemson and Iowa. I mean, I'm a little nervous about this Northwestern game.
You mean Nebraska?
Or Nebraska. Sorry, I mean Northwestern there for a minute. I don't know why I am. Everything says Iowa should win this game.
You know what? When you start looking at the stats and Nebraska scores, I think the big difference that's held them back is they give up about 100 more yards a game than what Iowa gives up on defense.
And about 10 more points a game.
Yeah, and about 10 more points in defense. And to go along with the points and then giving up the yardage, they're one of the worst teams in the Big Ten in turnover margin. They've turned the ball over a lot. So if they can curb their turnovers, if they don't turn the ball over, they have a better chance of beating. They have a chance to beat Iowa.
Well, this is a big game because you had guaranteeing Iowa losing to Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
And that little douchebag, he's going to, if Iowa lose that one, he's going to say, see, I told you. I told you.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to this. Let's say Iowa does lose to Nebraska. Let's just say they do.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the Big Ten title. Michigan State's in the top 4. Okay?
Right.
Iowa beats Michigan State.
Right.
Is Iowa back in?
I think they would have a better chance to be in. I say no. I think they would have a better chance to be in if they beat Nebraska and lost at the last second to Michigan State. What the hell are you doing?
Kind of big kids. Hold on.
So yeah, my opinion is no. I think that they would have a tougher chance of getting in if they lost to Nebraska compared to losing to Michigan State. Now that makes for an interesting argument near the last minute, or when you get down to December 6th or 7th or whenever it is that they're going to decide this, is if Iowa ends up going undefeated and ends up losing at the last minute, the last second, down at the wire to Indiana. I'm looking at a score there. If they end up losing to Michigan State late, but Notre Dame loses to Stanford, Oklahoma loses to Oklahoma State, then it starts to look a lot dicier. Clemson ends up beating what's their names? North Carolina. Notre Dame, Stanford. Baylor has TCU, I believe, this weekend. So if Baylor were to lose to TCU, that gives them 2 losses. Notre Dame would have 2 losses. If Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, that would give Oklahoma 2 losses. Because you basically would end up taking Clemson and putting them in you put Clemson in the top. You would have Michigan State that would take Iowa's spot. You'd still have Alabama. Now, the question is what if Alabama loses in the conference title game?
Right.
Then do you not have an SEC team?
Oh, gosh, the world would come to an end.
Yeah, the world would come to a screeching halt if we didn't have an SEC team in the Final Four. So
yeah.
That's what I wonder.
I think Iowa, even if they lose a game, still has a chance. But, look, just win out, man. Just win out.
You know what?
And I think the Iowa players are focused on it because they didn't celebrate that Big Ten West championship like a normal Big Ten West, like a Big Ten championship.
Right.
I think they realized, we got something special going on here. All we have to do is win 2 more games, and we're involved in the college football playoff. That's bigger than any bowl game right there.
Right. Right.
That's pretty darn good. What is it? Is this the second year of it? Third year of it?
Second year.
Second year?
Yeah, second year.
And I was already in it? Come on.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing for me is I just want them to win this week. Because I think if they win this week, regardless of what happens, they're in the Rose Bowl. Regardless of what happens in the Big Ten championship game, they're in the Rose Bowl. But I could see them getting screwed if they lose this week and then lose to Michigan State. Michigan State goes to the college football playoff, and Ohio State goes to the Rose Bowl.
Right.
I could see Iowa dropping down to about 4th in the whole thing, because then they're probably going to put Michigan in someplace too.
Oh, I'd be there.
Yeah, but I can absolutely see it. Well, although they're not supposed to jump over. I think that's one of the things that they had talked about this year, of not doing so much. But if Ohio State were to win at Michigan, that would give Michigan 3 losses. So Iowa should be in front of Michigan. But if Michigan were to beat Ohio State, then you got all three teams in the East with at least the same records as Iowa. But Iowa would have had one more chance for a loss, too.
Right.
So.
And then it becomes, does the advantage of the Big 12 not having a championship game help them better than losing in the championship game, if that were to be the case?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. It doesn't give them a chance to have, the only thing I can say about them, though, is they all played each other. So it really, that's the only difference is they all played each other. So it really shouldn't make a difference for them because the four good teams in the Big 12 all played each other. So, they kind of had their own tournament throughout the season as far as I'm concerned. So it really shouldn't it shouldn't mean anything. But you never know how there's a lot of dumb people out there that don't pay attention. So I really wouldn't be surprised if some people go, well, God, they didn't win their championship. Well, you know what? They all played each other.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm nervous about the Nebraska game for some reason. Maybe it's because we're close. We're right there.
Yeah, I am too. You know what? I really wasn't until a couple days ago when I started looking up some of Nebraska's statistics and realized, they're potent offensively. They're big time potent offensively. They can score the football. Now, one thing that in knowing how things work, it would probably be a week later when stuff would come out, but they had some trouble with the law in Nebraska last week.
Well, yeah. Did anything come of it?
Well, no, they're still investigating.
Well, yeah, they'll investigate until the Iowa game's over with.
Right. And I think so too. And then something will come of it. So I think Nebraska is going to be hyped for this game because it means bowl eligibility for them. I think they're going to be hyped. But I also think you're going to have more Iowa fans at Memorial Stadium than you've ever had before, too.
Yeah. Iowa fans always travel well, and it's a big game. The way I look at it is that they also lost to Purdue.
Right. And what's their record? They haven't had great, but they also beat Michigan State.
Right. Correct. It's because Michigan State, it's going to come down to Iowa's defense.
Which scares me.
It does. It does to a point. But one of Iowa's best defenses is their offense. And their offense is paced. It's not, Iowa scores 35 points on the average, right? So, and that's a slow offense. This isn't your Indiana offense or your Nebraska offense where it's high pace. And look what they did to Indiana.
Right.
They slowed them down.
Right.
I think Indiana's better than Nebraska.
I think so, too. I think Indiana's a good team that just had a tough schedule. When you start looking at Nebraska's schedule, they lost to BYU, who started the season decent, beat South Alabama, lost to Miami, who ended up being terrible, beat Southern Miss by 8, lost to Illinois by 1, lost to Wisconsin by 8. That was at home. Beat Minnesota handily. Lost to Northwestern by 2 at Northwestern. Lost to Purdue at Purdue by 10. Lost to Michigan State by 1, 39-38. So, they score. They score. They score the football. And then their last game, they only gave up 14 points. I know Rutgers isn't very good. But they've got a potent offense. So if you don't stop them, you can lose.
Yeah, I think it's just more. And I look at it this way: you face the same group of kids as you did last year. Iowa just blew last year.
Right.
They blew that game.
Right.
So I think, with this year, and maybe I'm talking myself back into it, might feel good. Just seeing them lose to Purdue on that schedule is, that's tough to lose to Purdue.
Right.
And I don't think their quarterback is very bright. Anyway, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, he's got people. He's having parties, and people are possibly having allegations leveled against him. For there are people that live at that house, so yeah, it's not the best thing in the world that he's got going on there. But it's still going to be one of them things where, because it's the last game, and we'll see. I think it seems like Nebraska's hyped up for this game, so we'll see if they're hyped up, or we'll see if they're like, oh my gosh, can we just get the season over with? I think the best thing for Iowa would be to come out and score immediately.
Oh yeah, just like they did in Indiana.
Yeah, the best thing is to come out and score immediately. Then, don't take your gosh darn foot off the pedal like you do every week.
I agree, man.
That drives
That's
me
what
nuts.
they did with Purdue.
I know. Quit.
People look.
Quit that.
Well, there's Purdue played it close. Technically, they didn't. Iowa was just running the football and not getting the first down.
Right.
And when you're not getting the first down, and you're not, yeah.
Yeah, they absolutely just take their foot off the pedal, and it drives me flipping nuts. Now, it could be worse. You could be Iowa State, who found another new way to lose this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State.
They gave up a lot of points in a lot of seconds, or in a few amount of time. They gave up a ton of points in in a little bit of time, when they could have just been sitting on the ball. The first time they could have been just sitting on the ball. So the Jamie Pollard, the AD at Iowa State, can say all he wants. It was the decision making on the game the other night absolutely played into this. Now, had they been 9-0 and they lost because of that, then no. But I think that was the final nail in the coffin.
Well, and then you had Mangini tweeting out nasty things.
Yeah.
When Iowa State gave it up, basically said the fat lady had tongue, put a fork in him, I think was his tweet.
Right.
And I think with that, combined with the crappy loss, and then your in-state rival is fighting for college football glory, and their coach is actually, just he knows how to keep a big lead. Sometimes he takes it a little too far, but I think that all contributed to that.
Well, and I think
he needed to be fired a long time ago, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, the funny part to me is I was watching a news report out of Des Moines yesterday, and it talked about how he was one of the most successful coaches in Iowa State history or something like that. And I looked at his record. He's like 30 games below 500. And I'm going, oh, my God, how bad of a program is this? That's insane to me.
Crap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Iowa State football is crap. And you remember when the Big 12 was looking to expand at that the Big 12 and the Big 10 were moving parts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget the article I read that said Iowa State might not be in the Big 12 in a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. There was talk about them having to go to the Mountain West or something.
Yeah.
Because the Big 10 didn't want them.
We're basically making them a mid-major.
Yeah.
That would have honestly, they're a mid-major.
That would have destroyed them. I mean, absolutely destroyed them.
Oh yeah, you would either have to embrace it somehow. I mean, you're a mid-major.
Yeah.
They're a mid-major now.
Well, look at the way I think the thing that I would be disappointed with, here's the thing. As an Iowa fan, I would want the success that Iowa State is having in basketball. I'd want to be the 5th-rated team in the country. My problem is I don't know how happy – we talked about this before. I've said I don't care how the Cubs win. I don't care if all 25 players on the postseason roster are on steroids, as long as I find out about it a few years from now. And we've talked about this before, and I said I feel different about Iowa. I want Iowa to do it the right way. I want them to win the right way. I want it to be respectable. And I'm not saying Iowa State's cheated. I'm not saying they've done anything outside the rules. But I don't know how long you can keep up just getting JCs and guys that have left other teams. I don't think that's a great long-term road for success. That's my opinion. But I think the fact that they can't win by getting high school guys and then supplementing with these other guys is a testament that they're not a big-time program. And Fred Hoiberg's the one who said this is how we're going to have to do it because we won't be able to get people to come to Ames. And I've been
Iowa State, which plus, the problem. Look, the Hawkeyes branded it perfect. To Hawkeye State.
Yeah.
To Hawkeye State.
Right.
At the end of the day, how many? You can look at how many past recruits initially committed at Iowa State, and when a scholarship was free, or another person dropped back, and then the Hawks were like, okay, let's look at this guy, let's offer him. 8 out of 10 times they're switching, they're flipping.
Right.
I'm going to Iowa. Now, you might not get those flips because they're from the Ames and Des Moines area that grew up Iowa State fans.
Right.
Those are the real key. You break it down, there's more Nebraska fans in Iowa than Iowa State fans, in my opinion.
There might be especially west of the I-35 corridor.
Correct. You look at the map, you've got all those Nebraska fans that bleed around the Council Bluffs area, all up on that west side there. For Iowa State, you're pretty much down to Ames, Des Moines area, and then Iowa's the rest of the state.
Well, to be fair, at least, there's quite a few Iowa State fans in the Quad Cities.
There is, but I am being fair. It's not that much.
It's dwarfed by Iowa fans, but there's still quite a few Iowa State fans in the Quad Cities. But usually it's because they have some kind of personal, like the Fenleys. Obviously the Fenleys have been there forever, and they know people that go there and this and that and the other thing. Or their son is the basketball coach. So that's where you see a lot of it. Or it's somebody who, the Rubleys ended up sending a son there. Big families end up going there that end up being legacies, end up being Iowa State fans. There's a good friend of mine, Terry Peterson. His brother went there. Now, Terry's still an Iowa fan, but his brother is a huge Iowa State fan because he played football there. That's how I think most of the Iowa State fans in the Quad Cities became Iowa State fans. It's from a personal relationship that their family has with the school for some reason.
Right. But if you're like born in Davenport, or if you're born in Cedar Rapids, if you're born in Keokuk, Muscatine, born in Waterloo, 99% chance you becoming a Hawkeye fan, saying that you stay in state as a fan.
Right. No, I agree.
Okay. But yeah, you're right. I mean, look at Tim Hernandez, old guy that used to work with us down at Hy-Vee.
Yep.
His son Bubba got a scholarship offer to Iowa State.
Yep.
Tim was a huge Iowa Hawkeye fan. Well, he's wearing Iowa State gear. Well, why wouldn't he?
Well,
his kid goes there.
No, and I agree 100%. As we've gone through some recruiting stuff for different things, people would ask us, well, what would you do if your daughter wanted to go to Iowa State to play? And I said, I don't have a problem with Iowa State. Iowa State, to me, is still little brother. And Iowa State knows that, and that's why they always want to beat Iowa so badly, because they are little brother. So I don't have a problem with Iowa State. The one I've always said I can't do is, if I had to go there and wear an Iowa State shirt, I would wear one. I wouldn't wear one here. But if I had to go to the game and watch or wear an Iowa State shirt, I would absolutely wear it. The one I said I couldn't do is Illinois.
I always said if I had a kid, which of course none of them decided to play sports, which is beyond me, but that went to Iowa State, I would wear an Iowa State shirt with probably a Hawkeye hat on.
Yeah, there you go.
But I got a coworker. His son, his son got, I think, a scholarship or is going to school. I think he got a scholarship at Iowa State to play in their band or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Hawkeye fan.
Right.
But he's like, I'm a dual fan now.
Yeah.
So I gotta be.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with.
But
there's a personal connection to it.
Exactly. There's a personal connection to it.
But you're going to run into those personal connections all over the state. But I think the majority all over the state, it's a Hawkeye state.
Right. But my thing is, if let's say if my daughter went to Iowa to play or Iowa State to play softball, I'm going to be a fan of Iowa State softball. I don't have to be a fan of any other sport. Or or if Iowa State softball is playing Iowa, I'm going to root for Iowa State. But every other sport, I'm rooting for Iowa.
Right.
Ashley went up there for a camp last winter or the winter before, and she was up there 3 or 4 weekends in a row. And one of the weekends, she went up there with an Iowa shirt on. and it was the Iowa State coaches who were running the camp. She went up there with her Iowa shirt on.
Well, I mean, look, he's in an era of cool jerseys and cool logos and cool colors. Iowa has always had that.
I have to say, I do like because I like USC and Arizona State too. I like that color combination though too.
Of Iowa State?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, I hate it.
Oh, I do. I like it. But like I said, I like Arizona State and USC. I mean, it's almost a common. I mean, it's those three are pretty similar.
I do not like those colors together.
But if you're Iowa State, and here's why I think that Iowa State announced the firing when they did, because we've talked about it before. It's not like they are going to expect just an amazing coach here. I don't think, or at least they're going to have to do it quickly, because when you start looking at it, doesn't USC need a coach? Illinois needs a coach. Miami needs a coach.
Oh.
I mean, there's like 13 or 14 programs already that need a coach, and Iowa State is probably near the bottom of that list for coaches' names.
That's the exact point I was going to bring up, is that this is a bad year to fire your coach.
Right.
Because those are good jobs. So I read somewhere, Les Miles because he's going to be out at LSU.
Yes.
He'll go to Iowa State. No, he won't.
No, he'd go to Illinois, where you got to. Yeah. He could go to Miami. He could go to USC.
I see him at Miami.
I could see it. Frank Beamer's gonna be gone. Frank Beamer's gone.
And the thing with Illinois, you've got a lot to clean up over there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's as attractive as it is. What's his face? I forget his last name. Coach now, the interim coach.
Where at?
Illinois.
Oh, Cubitt.
He might keep his job there.
There's a chance, but they could also be looking down the barrel too and thinking, God, I mean, I'm gonna go down this list real quick. Hawaii is I saw a quote from somebody on the internet the other day, and they were comparing Iowa State's job to Hawaii's job, and the quote was, "If I'm being hired to be fired, I'd rather get fired in paradise."
Hey, right when you said that, my first thing popped in my head. My first choice was Hawaii.
Yeah. So
I mean, 80 degrees all year round versus, hey, I'll even, if they wanted me to change it back to the rainbows, I don't care.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll put on a freaking Lucky Charm on my helmet. I'm the coach of Hawaii. So I don't care.
So I'll go down this list, and I can only see a couple off the top of my head that I would put in front of or put behind Iowa State. Hawaii needs a coach. These are coaches that we know of so far. Hawaii needs a coach. Illinois needs a coach. Louisiana Monroe needs a coach. Maryland needs a coach. Miami, Florida needs a coach. Missouri needs a coach. North Texas, that's another Iowa State guy that was fired. South Carolina needs a coach when Steve Spurrier is retiring. Syracuse needs a coach. Central Florida, who's had some decent teams recently, needs a coach. USC needs a coach, and Virginia Tech needs a coach. Now, of that list, the only one that I'm two of them I'd put behind Iowa State are Louisiana Monroe and North Texas. Those are the only two for sure I'd put. I'd put UCF in front of Iowa State.
Yep. Here's a list, and this is how they describe Iowa State. These are two guys here. It says, Iowa State is the northernmost Big 12 school, isolated from any meaningful recruiting area and stuck fighting the nation's best offenses year after year. Under Rhodes, the Cyclones failed to evolve their identity beyond a potential upset alert for teams playing in Ames. Fellow conference basement dweller Kansas hired David Beatty last year and opted to abandon the pro style and join in on the Big 12's up-tempo spread attack. Maybe ISU does the same, albeit with a system that compensates for the recruiting handicap. And then the other guy says, I would not want to live in Iowa, but at least this is a Power 5 job and one without the crippling academic recruiting restrictions of some private schools.
Nice. That's what people think of
your vision.
Right.
That's what Iowa State has to fight.
Right. And it's not like they have, when Hayden Fry left Iowa, or when, I don't know if he left Iowa, was pushed out, but when he was gone from Iowa, Iowa had a coaching tree that they could go to. I mean, it's obvious, everybody knows that the final two were Bobby Stoops and Kirk Ferentz. But you don't have that at Iowa State that I know of. And I think that's why people were excited about Rhodes, because he was an Iowa State guy. And how many Iowa State guys are there, in my opinion?
Right.
So that's
here's the list of candidates that Iowa State may go after. Todd Monken, he's the head coach of Southern Mississippi.
Never heard of him.
Rod Carey, Northern Illinois.
Never heard of him.
Ken Niumatalolo, head coach of Navy.
Never heard of him.
Troy Calhoun, Air Force.
Never heard of him.
Willie Fritz, Georgia Southern.
Never heard of him.
Brock Spack, Illinois State.
I have heard of him. Well, I mean, Iowa played him. He used to play at Purdue.
Yep.
And you know what?
Coordinator for Oregon, Scott Frost.
I've heard of him.
Matt Campbell at Toledo.
I've heard of him.
Might be a good one because Iowa State had trouble with Toledo a lot. Matt Wells, Utah State.
Never heard of him.
PJ Fleck.
I've heard of him.
Tony Alford.
And I would not want anybody with the last name of Alford.
Right. He's the assistant offensive coordinator and running back coach for Ohio State, and he played at Colorado State. Bob Stitt, Montana. Those are your coaching options. So you're dipping into the second tier, which Iowa State has to, because there's no top coach and there's no in-school talent. Like with Iowa, if Kirk Ferentz were to leave, you know whose name comes up first right off the bat? Brett Bielema.
Yep.
And there's no way Brett Bielema would leave Arkansas to go to Iowa State.
No.
But I guarantee you he would seriously consider leaving Arkansas to go to Iowa.
Well, and I think what'll end up happening with Iowa is, they'll go. Ferentz will be there for another 5 or so years, and Greg Davis will be gone here for probably the next couple of years, and Brian Ferentz will be the offensive coordinator and will move in to be the head coach.
You know what? I watch him on the sidelines. He looks like he might be all right.
He's definitely more animated than his pop.
He is?
Yeah.
And look, as much as we rip on the Patriots, Ferentz is part of the Patriot tree.
Yeah.
Both Ferentzes are.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why Ferentz was with Belichick is because of his dad, because Kirk worked with Belichick.
Yep.
So that's why you look at the two teams and they're similar.
Yeah.
Bunch of no-names who just get stuff done.
Absolutely.
So, but Iowa State, I mean, really, ugh. Ouch. I mean, there's
I'll tell you
14 on this list, and you're not even including Alabama, whose Saban is now rumored to think about going back into the pros.
I wouldn't want that son of a gun for the pros if my life depended on it. Well, plus, like you said, Les Miles is going to be gone.
Well, I think Miami did it wrong with Saban. I think if you could get Saban in there and say to Saban, look, you're going to be our coach, but you're not our coach and general manager and this and that. Saban gets bored, and I think he's starting to get bored at Alabama.
He might be. And probably after a while, you probably get tired of having to deal with the recruiting aspect.
Right.
But the list that you just read, the name that if I was them that I would go after is Brock Spack. The Illinois State head coach. That's the type of coach you got to go at. He's a Midwest guy. He's got a lot of recruiting. He's done a lot of recruiting in Illinois, which is someplace that they would have to go recruit. He's been in the top 2 or 3 in the FCS level for years now. And he's what I'm reading here. Spock has helped develop over 20 Redbird players, earned opportunities to play at the next level. Hell, Iowa State's probably not even had that.
That Monkid guy from Southern Mississippi might not be a bad choice, though.
I don't think. My opinion is I don't think you'd get a guy from Southern Miss who's already a D1 coach to go there. I wouldn't. Why the hell would you leave there to go to Iowa State and be cold?
Well, I think that's, I think that's a lot. And you look at these people, it's a mini step up.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Right.
I mean, really, if you're one of these guys like like a Brock Spack at Illinois State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Can't go from Illinois State to Iowa State.
Right. Right.
Do you wait out a year? I mean, is it better to just say, look, if I can get a couple more Missouri Valley championships under my belt, I could get something better.
I don't think you can from Illinois State. I mean, well, I'll tell you what. If they don't hire Cubitt, maybe he goes to Illinois.
Maybe.
I think he'll be gone this year. Because obviously, I mean, there's a stepping stone. It's the FCS, then it is, then it's a mid-major school, then it's the big time. Well, like you were saying, it's a pretty much a mid-major Iowa State football at this point in time. It's a mid-major level type of football. So that would be a good choice or a good type of applicant for them to go for. Whereas the guy from Southern Miss, he's already in a mid-major. Why would he want to go to another mid-major where you're playing majors all the time?
Well, yeah. I mean, when the selling of Iowa State becomes we're in a Power 5 conference and we play these guys.
Right.
If that's your selling point, and that is Iowa State's selling point,
right,
then you're going to have a hard time hiring. You're going to have to get like a Paul Rhodes type.
Yeah.
Now, Paul Rhodes, obviously, he was aimed. And look at Gene Chizik. You look at Chizik, he was the head coach at Iowa State.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If he did that, I think just to say, you know what, if I can get this program here turned around pretty quick.
Well, that's what you're going to need.
He bolted.
You're not going to get a head Division I coach as far as I'm concerned, including a Southern Miss, unless he's got Iowa State ties that I don't know about. Then I don't think you're going to get him. So you're looking at a guy who is a FCS coach or a guy who's an assistant at one of the major schools that wants his own program, like the guy at Oregon. Now, the reason I like the guy at Illinois State, Brock Spack, is because he knows the area and it's going to be easier for him to recruit.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Well, I was looking at Paul Rhodes here. Brilliant. I was looking at Paul Rhodes. I mean, yeah, he was Auburn defensive coordinator, defensive back coach in 2008. Pittsburgh, and then he was defensive back and inside linebacker for Iowa State in the mid-'90s.
Yeah, and plus he grew up in Ankeny.
Yeah, that doesn't have a good resume.
I mean, as a major D1 coordinator, I mean, at Alabama, I don't think it's a bad resume, do you?
Well, it wasn't Alabama, it was Auburn.
Well, yeah, but Auburn's didn't they win a national championship when he was there?
Gene Chizik took them to a national championship. We couldn't do nothing with Iowa State.
No, but that's what I'm saying though is when was Rhodes at Auburn?
2008.
Just 1 year?
Yeah, just 1 year.
Yeah, when they,
because they won their national title in 2010.
Yeah, they were just 2-6 in 2008.
Yeah.
But again, that's because of you hit the nail on the head, Corey. You hit the nail exactly on the head. Because of their experience with Chizik wanting to run as soon as he found a better job, they went for Rhodes, who was an Iowa State guy and who was an Iowa State legacy. And that's why they went with him. That's why they went with him, because they didn't think he would take the next job offer that came around like Chizik did. So that was the reason behind that, and I agree. Now, if he was just at Auburn for 1 year, and Auburn's record was 2-6, and the one game and he was the offensive coordinator, you said?
Defensive coordinator.
Oh, defensive coordinator. Okay, well, they had a shutout, 13 points. They gave up 2 points. You know what? Their defense wasn't bad at all, to be quite honest, when you start looking at it. When they played LSU, they only gave up 26. Tennessee, they only gave up 14, or they only gave up 12. Vandy, who was ranked that year, they only gave up 14. Arkansas was good back then, probably. Alabama was number 1 in the country. They gave up 36 to them. But then Georgia was number 12 in the country. They only gave up 17 to them. So their defense wasn't bad, but they were still 2-6. So it was more of a legacy hire than anything else. Is my long way around to get into that.
Yeah, that Iowa State just has to find gold on a mid-major.
Yeah, in me personally, I still don't know that they're going to be able to get. I don't think they're going to get a mid-major. I think they're going to get an FCS.
Or an FCS, yeah.
I think they're either going to get an FCS or they're going to get a coordinator like they did before. Where did McCarney come from before he went to Iowa State? He didn't go directly from Iowa. Yeah, he went directly from Iowa, didn't he? Or no, he didn't.
Yeah.
No, he went to Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, he was up in Wisconsin.
Yeah, he went to Wisconsin. But a coordinator from a major school. Just like Bill Snyder when he went to Kansas State, a coordinator from a major school. What's his name? Barry Alvarez, a coordinator from a major school. When Bob Stoops took the Oklahoma job, a coordinator from a major school. So I think.
How about that? How about Iowa and Oklahoma makes it to the football playoff?
Oh, I think it'd be awesome.
You got 2 Hawkeyes in that damn tournament.
Well, and did you see that there was a great article in ESPN last week, about midway through last week or whatever it was, where they talked about, it went down the road of all the coaches, and they said that 83 staff might have been the best staff ever created.
Oh, yeah.
That staff was amazing. And really, they went down one by one through all these guys, and they said, and a lot of them said that Bill Brazier, who was the defensive coordinator, I think it was Farron said when you talk about Bill Belichick, and he said one other name, he might have said Billick. For some reason that sounds right, but I know he said Belichick. But he said Belichick and one other big name. He said when you talk about guys or big names and the best coaches in football history, he said Bill Brazier is right up there with those guys. That's how good he was. But the funny part was they said that it was obvious. They said you all knew who was in charge. They said there was no doubt about it, even with all them great coaches, that Hayden Fry was in charge. So, that
Hayden Fry was just unique.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it.
85 Ferris unique.
Yeah, I agree. He was. People want to talk about him not being able to recruit to Iowa. He was able to get some big time recruits to Iowa. Now, did he get the top ones every week like Alabama or Ohio State? Absolutely not. But he got Willie Guy to come to Iowa, and Willie Guy was the number 1 recruit in the country.
Right. I was looking at from an article of course, this was before Iowa this year, that they listed some options for Hawkeye head coaches that would replace Kirk Ferentz. And one of them was Brian Ferentz, of course.
Yeah.
The other one was Bob Stoops.
Yep.
Brett Bielema. And then a Bobby Diaco.
Yep.
Over at Connecticut. all of these guys have Iowa ties.
Yeah.
And people might laugh at the Bob Stoops, but
he would if Ferentz were to, let's say Iowa won the national championship this year. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I doubt that's happened. I doubt they even make it into the playoff. But let's say they did make the national championship, and Ferentz says, "Hey, I'm going on top right here," and Iowa offered Bobby Stoops. I think you'd take it. Now, 5 years from now, I don't know, because then he's going to start getting up to that age where he's going to start thinking about retiring.
Right. Yeah, and this was from last year, and their reasoning was, Oklahoma last year lost 3 games. Sooner fans, like Husker fans, are spoiled. Stoops might have grown sick of having to explain why his team won only 9 games again. And then it said, Stoops' father was buried with Stoops' Iowa jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not to change the subject here, but we've got to wrap it down here in a second. But so I'm reading on Twitter here, and Seth Davis says, "How in the world did Marquette lose to Iowa by 29? And does this mean Henry Ellenson is the next LeBron? Because Marquette is beating LSU by 8 with just 7 minutes to go, and Ellington is playing better than Ben Simmons, who was the supposed number 1 recruit in the country." And do you follow that Franz red face on Twitter?
No.
It is the funniest follow you'll ever want. So Seth Davis puts that, Franz red face responds at Seth Davis Hoops, "You shut your whore mouth."
I'm looking up Seth Davis right now.
Well, when you start looking at his tweets from the other night, he says, "Oof, Marquette, I remember when you were good. What the hell happened?" Let's see.
That was funny as hell.
Oh,
dude.
my good. That was good. Let's see. What else is here? Safe to say Augustina's probably better than Wisconsin. That Bo Ryan should definitely retire.
Oh, Bo Ryan's got to go.
Let's see. Fran and Teddy sharing a laugh. That must have been Valentine. And Fran's red, or that was by somebody else. And Fran's red face says, "No, they have not. I hope he gets herpes tonight and spreads it to Izzo when they make love this weekend."
Maybe I should start coming out with one of these accounts, huh?
He says, "Ted Valentine already? That's just bleeping great. Someone please go put Visine in his water." The next time we miss an extra point, I'm going to stab a random person in the face. Oh, man. Let's see. Yeah, these are his are my favorite to sit there and watch.
All right, I just followed him.
Yeah, he's good. His are hilarious. He's got a picture. He's got a picture of Cyclone Stadium because that's Sage Rosenfels, who's an idiot, and he was ripping on Iowa this week. Says, "Where's everyone at?" It's an empty picture of their stadium, and Fran's red face says, "That's how it always looks in the fourth quarter for you guys. You should know that."
Why would Rosenfeld rip on Iowa? Come on now.
He was ripping on him today. Yeah, he was ripping on him today. So, well, that should probably just about do it for tonight.
Dude, that's funny, man. I gotta start following him. Yeah, you know what? It's gonna be a interesting week. We've got gosh, we got a good basketball tournament for the Hawkeyes. We've got the Bears and Packers. Favre gets his jersey retired. You got the Hawks could finish the Big Ten regular season undefeated. It's a big week.
Yeah, there's gonna be we're gonna know a lot more. I mean, right now, if you're an Iowa fan, football, basketball, really, in all the sports except for Iowa State football, you're having a good few weeks, a good few months. But now we're gonna know a lot more next Monday at this time. We're gonna know how good the basketball team I think is, and the football team is either still going to be looking at the tournament, or we're going to, or they're still going to be looking at the playoff, or we're trying to win to get into the Rose Bowl.
And you know what? I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Look, I want the Hawkeyes to be in this tournament bad. It's right there in their face.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. But I'm not going to be one of these Hawkeye fans where I'm thoroughly disappointed if they lose a game and they're not voted in.
No.
Because it's still a one-loss. I mean, that's still a really good season.
Yep.
So I'm not going to be disappointed at that. But I just want to say, since QCSportsinferno.com came online, the Cubs were 4 games away from the World Series. The Iowa Hawkeye football team is vying for a national title. The basketball team is much better than people thought they were. The Bears are much better than they thought they were. I have to give a lot of credit to QCSportsinferno.com because I can't remember where all of my teams that I like are actually doing pretty good, better than what I thought.
I agree. I mean, how is it not? In all gratitude should go towards us.
I think so. I mean, we were so close to a World Series championship. Now we're close to an NCAA championship, 2 things that have never happened in our lifetime. And the Iowa basketball team might be better than we think, and they look like they have the potential to be better than they were last year.
Well, and I'll tell you what, and I'll work on it tonight. It'll be up tomorrow. When you start looking at the calendar year 2015, this is the best year for the Iowa Hawkeyes athletic program, especially their main 5 sports. But this is the best year since the mid-'80s.
They had probably the best wrestling event to ever occur in college wrestling, an outdoor wrestling event with 50,000 people there.
Yeah.
The biggest ever.
Yep.
And the women's team is awesome. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Nope. This is. I'm gonna work on it tonight. It'll be up tomorrow. But yeah, it's definitely This is the biggest. This is the biggest. This is the best season that the University of Iowa's had in sports since the mid to late 80s.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so that should do it.
All right, on to it. QCSportsinferno.com presenting ZRadio with Mike Ackerman. I'm Corey Schrader. I hope you enjoyed the show. We got a lot of good things this week. Are we going to be on the air Wednesday?
No, not Wednesday night. We can do it tomorrow,
Happy Thanksgiving.
We can do it tomorrow if you want.
Might not be good.
Yeah.
We'll decide.
Yeah.
If we're not, happy Thanksgiving, but still go to QCSportsinferno.com, as we'll have some updates, and also high school pages, basketball pages will be floating out there, too. We'll have schedules and rosters out there. Check those out as the local high school basketball teams start play here
tonight.
This week, next week.
Yeah, tonight. So
good time.
Yep.
All right, I'm out.
Peace.